Hello, it's Zaman Tural here. Starting from this tutorial, we are going to explore really complex C# interview questions. These tutorials will help you to not just grasp, but also to cover all the concepts from the real world perspective. It is not just, okay, let's create pet class or animal class. We will build real world cases with you, and you will understand all the complex topics related to .NET C# using real world examples. The first tutorial is going to be, which is going to be this tutorial. We are going to explore performance problems in C#, especially if you are building performance matter applications or you're building MMO based applications. You will start exactly with span class. Yes, it is span class. It was introduced in C# 7.2. It is .NET Core 2.1. It is a ref struct. It is a specialist stack only type, which represents a contiguous region of arbitrary memory, which helps you to work with strings, with arrays, also with unmanaged memory without any problem. And the main case here is it doesn't allow you to allocate a new memory. It is cache friendly, it is memory friendly. So this tutorial will help you to understand all the concepts related to span class. So what are you waiting for? Let's get started. Now let's dive into details of span class. Just remember that your interviewers always waiting for your theoretical explanation before diving into technical writing real-world examples. Okay, so span is a stack-only type and it represents a contiguous region of arbitrary memory. Span helps us to work with arrays, to work with strings, and also to work with unmanaged memory. But how? Of course, really important stuff here is without allocating a new memory, or let's call it without extra allocations. Okay, this is really important when it comes to create a performance ready applications. So just think of it like, let me open our paint, and here I will demonstrate the real value of span. This is our contiguous memory. Okay, we have array, let's call it integer array, and in my integer array I want to slice some part of my information. It means I can write array.slice or another method, array.copy, etc., and pick the first 4 bytes or the next 2 bytes, etc. But these classical techniques have one big problem. They are allocating a new memory for copied information. But when you use a span, generic span, it creates a window, a slice over your memory. This is our window. Okay, let's create it like this. This is our window, slice over our memory. And unlike arrays, span doesn't own the memory. It just points to it. This is really important. Now let's switch to our Visual Studio and start to work with span, and then we'll switch to real world examples. First, let's try to understand the basics. I have numbers array. Okay, this is my numbers, really simple numbers array, and I want, let's say, pick first 2 elements without copying them. What I can do, I have numbers dot as span, which helps me to create a window slice over my numbers memory in heap. Okay, this is our numbers, and as span will make it span integer. Okay, span integer sp. Let's call it just sp. Now, using this sp, I can write slice first 2 elements. Okay, that's good. And even this span will help me to modify the existing numbers because I'm not allocating a new memory. I'm just pointing to existing memory. So the 0 index here is 1, but I'm changing it to 45. Now let's create a simple for each and see if our change is applied or not. Let's run it. So the first element, the 0 index, is going to be 45. That's great because we are not allocating a new memory. In most cases, you may think that, okay, we have extension method. This will copy these numbers to somehow to stack memory and we'll work on that. No, we are referencing, we are creating a window over existing memory and we are working directly with already existing memory rather than allocating a new one. Okay, that's really important. Of course, you can use this span not only for your numbers, integer, etc. You can apply it to your string also. I will create a simple text here. Let's call it hello from C#. Okay, and using text we also have as span, and this as span will map it to read-only span. Okay, this is read-only character span. Cool. Now I can do the slice, the same slice. I can write span dot to string to map it to string, etc. So that's the same as we worked with the classical number arrays. Okay, that's cool. Now from the performance perspective, from the performance benefits, I want to mention 3 important stuff. We are avoiding additional memory allocation, and our span is cache friendly. It operates directly on existing memory. Okay, cache friendly. And the other one is it is safer than pointers because, as we mentioned before, span helps us to work with arrays, with string, and also with unmanaged memory. In most cases, for unmanaged memory, we are using pointers, but this span helps us to work with unmanaged memory, and we have no row pointer arithmetic needed in this case. That's the cool stuff, but also we have some sort of limitations. Of course, what are our limitations? Unfortunately, we can't use span as fields in our classes. It is also not suitable for async methods, and of course, you might already realize that it is short-lived because we are working directly in stack because it is ref struct. So let's just use our span. This is our span. Let's say integer, right click, go to definition, and here we are. This is ref struct. So it operates in stack rather than in heap. But we have special class called memory. We'll explore in our next tutorials the memory stuff also. Okay, these are the basics of using span, but the main point of our tutorial is, of course, to demonstrate this span from the real world perspective. So the first one, I want to explain that if you get an offer, if you have an interview with game development companies, especially if they are building MMORPG games or they have low latency systems, they have the game servers, etc., you will definitely get questions related to span memory. Okay, and the first real world scenario in our case is going to be parsing network packages. I will create a special class, let's call it MMORPG. Say we have MMORPG game, and in this MMORPG backend, we often receive binary packets over sockets, okay? And somehow we need to map, serialize these binary packets into the existing data. Okay, now I have public void, let's call it parse packet. Okay, I have byte packets Yeah, and for my byte packets, you already know that I have a span. Of course, I can instantiate span like this. New span. This is span byte packets. That's also total okay, but the easiest one is packets dot as span. Okay, let's get span byte. Let's call it SP. Great. Now in my case, say we have a special sequence of byte arrays like this, and the first four, this is the index 0, 1, 2, 3. The first four bytes are going to be our header information. Okay, we'll pick header information from the first bytes. The next 2 bytes are going to be our type, operation type needs to be done in our server side. And I have the next 4 bytes for our player ID. Player ID. You already know that it is really easy to implement it using slice, splice, or the copying array. That's completely okay, but they are using additional extra memory, which we are planning to avoid. That's why I'm going to use sp.slice from 0. Let's pick the first 4 bytes. And we have the brilliant class called bit converter, and it has to int 32. Cool. To int 32 is our integer header. Cool. Okay, so next 2 bytes we will have short type bit converter to int 16. Okay, and sp dot slice from 4. Let's pick the next 2 bytes. Great. And the next one is our player ID. It is also bit converter to int 32 sp dot slice from 6. Let's pick the next 4 bytes. That's cool. So this is a real world example of parsing network packages. Parsing network packages. Okay, packets, packages, they are same. Okay. So with span, we can slice without allocation. So no need for array.copy. You say I'm not using array.copy. Each field is read directly from the buffer. That's the cool one. And least garbage collection pressure when packets arrive thousands of times per second. And it helps us to build really performance matter application. Cool. This is our first example. The second example is also going to be from MMORPG. For the last 2 interviews I participated for MMORPG based companies, MMORPG game development companies, and I actually got these questions. That's why I am recording this tutorial for you to pass such type of interviews. Okay, so the second one in my case is going to be effective string manipulation. I will call it public void 0 allocation substring. Okay, let's call it 0 allocation substring. Of course, you will not write such type of names in your production ready applications, but the purpose here is to demonstrate that it is possible for us to work with string in the same way as with our arrays. I'm accepting a special command. It is not always the best practice to accept such type of commands. We are usually working with packets like this, but in some cases it is definitely will be possible for you to work with such type of commands. We have commands like this: 1 2 2 1 and west, the direction. Okay, I'm going to parse it. And for the command, you already know that we have a span, which will return read-only span, read-only span. Read-only span is the same as our span The only stuff here is you cannot modify it. Okay, as span, read-only span. Sorry, this is character. Cool. And I have span dot slice from 0 to 4, and I will pick my move command here. Great. So let's use read only span character. This is our action. For the rest of the stuff, you will apply the same operation like this. Okay, so span slice from 0 to 4. Let's pick 1, 2, 3, 4. This is our command. From fifths, the next 4 is going to be our identification. Okay, let's copy, paste, let's call it ID. From 5 to next 4, 1, 2, 2, 1, we'll pick this one, and the next one is going to be our direction, and from the 10, let's pick the rest of the stuff, which is going to be our west. Okay, so you see, this is also really easy to work with span in such type of cases when you parse network packages, when you want to effectively manipulate over your string. In other cases, you have substring, substr type of operations, which definitely okay if you have not high-loaded applications. For high-loaded applications, for bitrate applications, you will definitely use span. Okay, the next one for me, I think we can show the serialization, deserialization. Okay, say for MMORPG, it is applicable for low latency applications. It is not just for MMORPG, but anyway. So we have serialize player. Say I have serialized player, which will work with our buffer. Okay, let's call it buffer, and I have int player ID, I have short health. Cool. For my serialization, of course, you already know that we have tons of serialization frameworks. They are also totally okay. I'm not saying that don't use the serialization tools. Of course, use them. But serialization frameworks often allocate objects. Yes, they are temporary, but anyway, they are allocating them. With span, you can write directly into buffer without additional allocation. That's the greatest feature of span. So I have try write bytes player. You see the great intelligence help me to fulfill all this stuff. For the buffer, I will use slice 04 health one. Okay, because I don't want to write in a classical way. Great. Now, if you want to use MMORPG, you need to instantiate it first. For my MMORPG, I'm using serialize, but I need to instantiate my buffer. Okay, 6, because integer is 4, short is 2, it is going to be 6. Okay, I have buffer as span, player ID is 3, and this is our health. Good. I want to just see the result string dot. Okay, why I'm not able to write, come on, string dot join, okay, with comma, and here is our buffer. Let's just run it and see the result. 99, good. I don't see my, I think I did something wrong here. Let me just scroll a bit up. Oops, sorry. Okay. Run. Cool. Now I have 399. You see, I have serialized my data like this without allocating extra memory. Of course, we have tons of other use cases for our span. The one is if you need file parsing, if of course it is high performance. You have an attribute, high performance attribute in your case, you can use span, and also for your performance critical loops you can use span. Let me show this. This is also another interesting stuff. Okay, let me comment it like this, and see we have span integer health. Let's pick health again. Okay, and I'm using another interesting keyword called stack allocation. This is 1,001. In a classical manner, when you instantiate an array, it is going to be lived in your heap memory. But if you have the fast operation, if you need low latency operations, you can easily indicate C# that, okay, don't allocate array in a classical heap, allocate it in a stack because I have a fast operation on it. That's why on stack we are allocating 1,000 items array, and I have for int e to 0 is less than health ln e plus plus, I have health e equal to 99. So you see, this is really fast. Of course, in most cases for game servers, often loop over thousands of players or entities we are doing such type of loops, and using span we can avoid allocations when working with buffers repeatedly. Okay, this case, this unusual case, works like a temporary array with no garbage collection involved, and also crucial for frame by frame operations. So long story short, my dears, or call it I even forget the commenting stuff. So long story short, use span when you need speed and safety without allocations. Okay, don't focus too much to work with unmanaged stuff using all these pointers. In some cases you can easily bypass the stuff using the span. Okay, we have used our span for packet parsing, for text parsing, like you have some sort of commands, you have config files, you have logs to be parsed, you have packages from the network, from the game servers. Okay, we already did a serialization stuff for such type of binary protocols or save load systems, you can apply it. And of course, for high performance loops, you can definitely use span. Well, that's pretty much all. If you like my videos, please don't forget to subscribe, hit like button, share, and I'll see you in the next tutorials. Bye.